I'd like to call this Tampa City Council meeting to order. Thank you very much. Councilman Citro, I believe you have the invocation today, is that, or Councilman Miranda?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, it's my pleasure this morning to introduce Bishop Tom Scott to lead us in the invocation today. Bishop Scott is a man who cares deeply for his community. He has served on the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority, Hillsborough County Hospital Authority, Hillsborough County Port Authority, Tampa Sports Authority, Hillsborough County Area Regional Transit Authority, Florida State Fair Authority, Metropolitan Planning Organization, Tampa Bay Convention Center and Bureau, Public Transportation Commission, on Energy and Policy Board, as well as many others. Bishop Scott became the pastor of the 31st Street Church of God, where he served the pastor for 33 years. His church has grown from 50 members to over 800 members. His vision included opening one of the premier schools in Tampa called King's Kids Christian Academy. He's also the Tampa Bay Family and Community Development Corporation and shared minister with many other ministries that are reaching and touching lives. He's also served as chairman of the Florida State Association of Church of God. He's also served in Tampa City Council and Hillsborough County Commission, and he's also served as chairman of both. Above all, he's a friend of the people. Bishop Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the privilege to be able to come and do the invocation. Let me just thank all of you for what you do for this community, make it a better place for all of its citizens. And so you have a monumental task as we face the pandemic that we're in and the economic downturn, where millions of people have lost their jobs, and racial injustice. So we are certainly delighted that we can come and pray today. Will you rise with me as we pray? And I think we remain standing for the pledge, if I'm not mistaken, that was our custom. We are always reminded of what your word tells us, and that is to acknowledge you in all of our ways, and you will direct our path. Today, as we come in your divine presence, there's so much that we need to thank you for, in spite of the crisis that we are facing. We thank you for this day and the blessings of this day. Another opportunity and another privilege we have to deal with the challenges that are before us. We thank you today as we deal with the pandemic crisis, the economic crisis, the racial injustice, and so many other issues that are plaguing our nation and our community. And I pray that you will give us wisdom to work together to solve these problems. We thank you today for this city council. We thank you for their integrity. We thank you for their wisdom and insight. And I pray that you continue to bless them as they work together to make this community a better place for all of its citizens. Today we pray for our nation. We thank you for this great nation where we are one people under God. And so we thank you now as you bless our nation and our country. Bring us together. And then, God, as we come in your presence today, we want to thank you for so many needs that we have with those who have lost loved ones in this pandemic. We pray for over 230,000 who have lost loved ones today. We pray for your comfort and your sustaining grace. Thank you today as this council meets, and thank you for your presence. For it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Vieira. Here. Goods.
Here.
Carlson. Here. Dingfelder.
Here.
Citro.
Here.
Miranda.
Here.
And Maniscalco.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Shelby.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, members of Tampa City Council. Martin Shelby, the City Council Attorney. Today is the 5th of November, and we are at the Tampa Convention Center at 333 South Franklin Street. Today's regular agenda of the Tampa City Council is held during the COVID-19 state of emergency, which is being conducted live with an in-person quorum present, with the option of remote participation using what is referred to by the state of Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. The meetings are held in accordance with the emergency rules of procedure as adopted by resolution number 220-225 of the Tampa City Council and as amended by resolution number 2020-490.
Are able to watch this meeting today on Spectrum Channel 640 or Frontier Channel 15 on cable TV, or on the internet at tampagov.net/livestream, one word, or on the City Council's, the City of Tampa's Facebook page. Also, additional information as to how one can participate in this meeting, both in person and virtually, is available at tampagov.net/City Council, one word, CITYCOUNCIL. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. All right, we now go to approval of the agenda and the addendum to the agenda. Are there any questions or comments from council members?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. We have a motion to move approval from Councilman Miranda, second from Councilman Goods. Any objection?
And Mr. Chair, if I may?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. With regards to the Councilman Citro's resolution, I know we have a lot of people here to speak on that today. It was my understanding, is that going to be continued or just?
Councilman Citro, do you want to address that now or after?
No, I will address that after public comment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Okay,
you.
just before. Thank you, sir.
All right. Was there any objection to the approval of the agenda, the addendum? Hearing none, that passes unanimous. We have a very, very long meeting today, so I'd like to announce now that we'll be taking lunch at 12 o'clock or within reasonable time around that for an hour. And when we come back from lunch, we're going to take up item number 87. 87 is going to be bundled with 5, 6, and 7. So we'll take all of that together. There's a presentation, discussion, and we'll do that first thing after lunch. All right. Having said that, we're going to go first to ceremonial activities. There's a Stanley Cup in the room, and Tampa Bay Lightning representatives here. And we have a motion from Councilman Citro, who will address the audience.
Coach, I tell you how excited I am, not only to see you, the members here, but to actually touch the Stanley Cup. How many people actually stop me and got next to Stanley Cup? But the bigger achievement is the work that you, the players, the staff, the coaching, everybody involved with this team, Tampa Bay Lightning, have achieved this year. I am proud of you, City Council, and the whole city of Tampa, proud to say that you are all fans. Coach, I thank you very much for bringing Stanley Cup home. Let's build the dynasty so the cup will never ever leave. Before I read off this commendation, which is just a small token of how we help. You have any word you want to express? Jump up to the microphone. Jump up to the microphone. So,
You have to speak into the mic. They're having trouble hearing on TV.
Can you hear me now? So, and I think I speak for everyone here. I've been a member of this team since 2013. When you move around, when you're a hockey coach and you're trying to achieve your goal and your dream, and you land in a city and you know when you get to that city, this is where you want to stay. And I've been extremely fortunate to work with Steve Griggs and Julian Brisebois behind me. By the way, if you want the dynasty to continue, Mr. Brisebois is the one to talk to in that department as a general manager. But anyway, myself and my family are so proud for the last 7 years to call Tampa our home and to always call Tampa our home in the future. And so as hard as, you know, I'm just the coach that stands there in the background and we watch our players do all this incredibly hard work, and they're the ones that deserve all the credit. But I will tell you that they love this city, and they were so darn proud to get off that plane and hoist that Stanley Cup in front of everybody. We came back on September 29th. And so as much as this Stanley Cup is for us, it's for you, it's for the city of Tampa to enjoy, and we're just really proud to be members of the community.
Thank you very much. Anybody on the dais have any comments? Councilman Dingfelder.
Well, just to reiterate what Councilman Citro said, on behalf of the City of Tampa and City Council, and I'm sure the mayor, we couldn't be prouder. I remember the first time was so exciting, but this time was like equally exciting, and it's just fantastic what you guys have done, and the team and the fans, and I know you can't do it without the fans. So we appreciate you very, very much, and congratulations. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilman Goods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, thank you for your leadership today. Coach, I was at a ceremony a couple weeks ago with my son, Mr. Citro. And me being a ball coach for many, many years, I understand winning a championship is a great, great feeling. A gentleman was called a locker room leader. And I took back on that, locker room leader. And when I look at the success you've had with the ball club, I look at the charisma that you bring to the team. You're the locker room leader. And locker room leaders, they bring on training and leadership and guidance, and that's what you've done with the Lightning program, and again, a championship program, and we look forward to many more championships. Again, thank you for being a locker room leader.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Coach, the Tampa City Council recognizes the victorious Tampa Bay Lightning, and in doing so, bringing the Stanley Cup to our great city. We commend the Tampa Bay Lightning in their victory over the Dallas Stars 4-2 in the Stanley Cup final. To conclude an amazing season, the city of Tampa has had a challenging year, and your victory has truly given our city and the community a great reason to celebrate. It is our honor of the City of Tampa Council to present this commendation on the 5th day of November, 2020. Thank you.
You have to go through the cup guides for that.
All right, thank you very much. Our next commendation is by Councilman Goods, and I believe, is this one virtual, sir? You want to go? All right, Councilman Goods will go to the podium.
I will carry it out like this.
Marty.
Again, good morning, gentlemen. Every now and then we have a special person who comes along and sees an idea, who sees something that the city is missing or sees something that the country's missing. I happened to see a story months ago, referenced a young lady. Her name is Vivian Anderson. Do we have her on the line, IT? Supposed to be virtual. Vivian found a need that was missing, and it dealt with gender equity, and it's something that I preach all the time, equality and equity. 10-year-old Vivian Anderson, who lives in Tampa, was not happy with a construction sign that said men working, so she wrote to Mayor Jane Castor about it. She was in the car with her mom on December 2019 and had some questions about the sign. After all, men and women were present working. I didn't really like how it was excluding the women, said Vivian to her mom. That says something, that she was looking out upon the horizon and seeing a need that needed to be changed. In August, the mayor replied and agreed with Vivian that a sign should be more inclusive of the city. And hopefully that'll transcend across this nation in saying that inclusion is necessary. Vivian is a 4th grade student at Roosevelt Elementary School. She's a very outgoing person, an athlete, and loves playing soccer. She likes to play rollerblocks with her friends, read chapter books, and spend time with her family, which includes 2 older brothers. When Vivian grows up, she wants to be a soccer player like Alexis Morgan or the mayor like Jane Castor. Again, I had to do something. When I look along the horizon in the city, I just lost a young man the other night, 17-year-old, who won't be able to be an adult. A couple of months ago, I've lost a few more student athletes. But when I saw this, you have to recognize young people when they do a good deed. And this is a great job, a great deed for our city. I want to extend this council to this commendation that we're going to give her today as an extraordinary citizen. It's not often that we have the opportunity to recognize someone for going above and beyond what is expected. Vivian Anderson has proven herself to be an outstanding citizen of Tampa, one who exemplifies superior honor and answers the call of duty for her citizenship. Vivian helped to move the city forward with an all-inclusive on our signage. She observed there was a sign at a construction site indicating men working and women were also present. Vivian did agree with the sign excluding women. Vivian had the fortitude to reach out to Mayor Jane Castor to request the men working sign to be changed to workers present. On this 5th day of November 2020, it is with great pleasure Tampa City Council presents this commendation to honor Vivian Anderson for her leadership and thoughtfulness. She truly is an extraordinary citizen, and again, for a young person to be able to see that. When many adults, we see that every day, and we did not do what we needed to do. So I applaud her for her efforts. IT, is she on the line at all to be heard to speak?
I don't see neither names signed on. They're stating that they're on, but I do
Well,
not know.
I'll just make a statement that I'm going to personally, being the councilwoman of the gentleman, she's at Roosevelt Elementary. I'm going to personally go by there tomorrow and give her the accommodation personally. Again, thank you, Vivian, for the job well done.
Congratulations. Any comments from council members? Councilman Carlson.
Yeah, I think I said this when we passed this motion, but in case Vivian or Mom are listening, her mom is a professor at University of Tampa. Is very
Bill,
involved.
turn on your mic.
Oh, yeah.
You got to bring it closer if you can, bring it closer.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to say congrats again to Vivian. I met her through her mom, who's a professor at the University of Tampa and is very involved in the community. And Vivian came up with this idea on her own. I interviewed her on Cafe con Tampa, which is on YouTube. Just a really brilliant young woman who is going to do great things in the future, and look forward to watching her career and the changes that she makes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Goods, for bringing this forward. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because a lot of the times the language that we speak just day to day in normal discourse, we take a lot of things for granted that we shouldn't take for granted. Things that we would say 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we wouldn't think about saying today, and so forth and so on. So, you know, I obviously commend this young woman for being thoughtful. You know, yesterday, Councilman Maniscalco and I were speaking at a Rotary event on leadership, and one of the things I always believe about leadership is to be maybe the word trailblazer is a little much in this regard, but certainly somebody who thinks before your time. You know, in today's day and age, we probably say things that 40 years from now we're going to be aghast at. So I think a trailblazer rhetorically is somebody who thinks ahead and has the sensitivity and the decency to see beyond things. So thank you for that, Councilman Goods.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right. Thank you. We will now go to public comment, and the way this complicated meeting is, since we're hybrid, we have people that have called in, people that have sent recorded messages, and we have people in the audience. So since you are here, I'd like to go to the people in the audience first. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and you can approach the lectern, which will sanitize after each person. So if you would alternate, so we sanitize one and the other person speaks. And we have the kiosk outside. If anybody wishes to speak that is out there in the lobby and does not want to come in out of safety, I understand we have that option. So we try to open all options up for people's safety. We'll begin public comment. Please state your name for the record. And clerk, if you would start the clock for 3 minutes.
Not Tampa, Florida. I want to start off by saying it's a garbage city council. Nothing more, nothing less. A garbage city council. It's a garbage mayor. It's been that way indefinitely. It's been that way since the inception of this city, since the beginning of Lynch City. And they still, my complaint says, how African people are treated. My complaints are how a percentage of the poor and working class population is treated. My complaints are how they treat certain individuals. And it's no compassion, none whatsoever. And when the people try to resist tyranny, because that's what it is, when the people try to resist oppression, they make on-the-spot rules, they incarcerate you, they beat you, they send you away with long prison sentences, and nothing is resolved. There's no movement in this city. The same effing conditions, MFing conditions that exist for African people 200 years ago exist right now. All the discriminatory practices, all the deplorable conditions, housing. Look what they did to the people at Tampa Park just recently. Housing, healthcare. Look how coronavirus is ravaging through the African community. Drug addiction, alcoholism. Every store you go to, you see inside the African community plastered with alcohol and tobacco advertising. That's what our children have to see. It's the same garbage city council that does absolutely, positively nothing for the people. Education, look at that statistical information. Driver's license, look at employment, everything. And the city council isn't advancing the conversation in no way whatsoever. What they do is they take from the poor and give to the rich. And they run through the African community with their code enforcement harassing African people. No services in the African community, but they have code enforcement harassing African people 24/7. That have to stop. You have to see some form of enlightenment to where it can be a better future for the entire city, not some people, for the entire city, so the city and all people can move forward. Because that's not happening. This city council needs to tighten up. This city council, which supposedly is progressive, need to tighten up. All the people that was arrested during the resistance to the death of George Floyd, those people need to be out. Charges need to be dropped against them. And this city council need to be instrumental in doing something about it. Plain and simple. African people, black people are sick and tired of the treatment we're receiving, even to the point that you see some of these clowns thinking they can get some kind of justice or fair treatment by voting for Donald Trump, for those who participate in that process. That lifestyle have to change.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good morning. My name is Brooke Arrett, and I'm here representing Food and Water Action and our 3,500 supporters in Tampa and the Tampa Bay Climate Alliance and the over 50 organizations, businesses, and faith institutions who signed the letter that you received yesterday to support Tampa's transition to 100% clean, renewable energy by 2030. I want to start by thanking all of you on council for taking the time to meet and talk with us about one of the most important issues facing the city of Tampa and our region. According to the UN's latest IPCC report, we are in a climate emergency, and we only have the next 10 years to avoid climate disaster. Tampa ranks number 2 as one of the most vulnerable cities to climate change in the U.S., meaning that we will be impacted prior to the rest of the world. We cannot wait. Luckily, we have a council and a mayor who are aware of this imminent threat. That is why it is imperative that we push forward with the resolution to ban fossil fuels and new fossil fuel infrastructure and transition this city to 100% clean renewable energy from solar, wind, and tidal sources by 2030. We are working in the interest of everyone here today. We want a future that benefits us all. So what will this resolution do? First, it will ban dirty fossil fuels that are antiquated and killing us and set us on a path to power our city with renewable energy. Second, it will stop new fossil fuel infrastructure. So what is fossil fuel infrastructure, you might ask? Well, fossil fuel infrastructure is any pipeline or facility that produces, transports, stores, or combusts natural gas, oil, or coal. So this resolution will not shut down your Wawas and gas stations. Nobody's going to be ripping out the gas lines to your kitchens or homes. The intent is to stop the for-profit transport of dangerous explosive fuels through and from our neighborhoods and threaten our way of life. We will continue to work with Whit Reamer's office to ensure that all of the community is represented and heard and that our interests are protected. We simply want to stop the exploitation of our city from dirty fossil fuel interests that harm all of us. So you will hear from people today who will explain to you not just why or how we can get to 100% by 2030, but why we must. Tampa's decision does not only affect our region, we are able to impact the nation. Congresswoman Kathy Castor has the ability, as the chair of the Select Committee on Climate Change, to bring the necessary funds to our area to make this happen. Our newly elected county commission is also ready to support this move. Tampa, moving forward, will propel the entire nation to this necessary deadline. There comes a time when you have the choice to impact true change, and this is it. Don't let our community down. Talk with us. Work with us. We are here for all of you, and we will keep working until this is done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker. Okay, I had spoken with this gentleman before. He has, of course, 3 minutes to speak, but he also has a statement to read from Walter Smith, I know we all know Walter Smith, who could not be here, work circumstances and whatnot. Does council have any objection that he read this statement? You said you'll keep it under, you know.
Yeah, my statement is around 3 minutes long. Walter's roughly shorter than that.
Any objection from council members? All right, go ahead, sir.
All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Tampa City Council. My name is Getulio Gonzalez Militieri. I'm a veteran and lifelong resident of the city of Tampa. I'm sure you're sick of me by now. I always come to these things and, you know, I get pretty loud. I promise you all it's all well-intentioned. It's not that I don't trust you to do your job, you know, do right by the 400,000 people living within city limits. It's that sometimes you're out of touch with what's going on the ground. So that's why I'm here today. So I'm here to voice my support, my unequivocal support for the Ready for 100% by 2030 climate resolution spearheaded by the Sierra Club and the Tampa Bay Climate Alliance. I believe that it's vital that we invest in our frontline communities, much like the one I grew up in, such as historic West Tampa, Sulphur Springs, and other at-risk neighborhoods. We call them frontline communities because they're the most impacted by climate change. And I have to say that I'm dismayed by the fact that these neighborhoods only become the municipality's focus of attention when it's election season or it's time to gentrify them, you know. That really needs to change. To that end, I stand by the Ready for 100% plan because of the economic opportunities that arises from such a plan, especially for frontline communities. Simply put, this plan will create well-paying jobs, jobs that will pull residents out of these frontline communities out of destitution, jobs that will form the backbone of several family units by providing for them, jobs that would pay for meals and services at local restaurants and businesses, okay? Jobs that will pay for attendance at local sporting and cultural events, you know, and ultimately these are jobs that would stimulate our economy. You know, that's what we need right now. Everybody's asking for an economic stimulus. We can build one right here at home. The same can't be said for the fossil fuel industry, which outsources our local jobs to states like Oklahoma, North Dakota, and Colorado. Renewable energy would ensure that these jobs stay here in the Tampa Bay area. I have to say, like, we're at a precipice. Our great city could take the lead when it comes to tackling the looming climate crisis here in the South, while simultaneously uplifting some of our most vulnerable neighborhoods and communities simply by taking the bold step of committing to transforming our energy system. But that commitment must be citywide, and it must meet the needs of all people in our city. That's key right there. And it must meet their needs regardless of their economic or social standing. So to that end, I'm urging you to please have the courage to take that bold step to move us forward. And thank you. That's my statement.
All right, go ahead with Mr. Smith.
All right. The people of the city of Tampa deserve better than to be told that our better quality of life has to be put on hold. All too often, the people of frontline communities lose and are told that they have to accept it. They lose when their children are having to suffer with chronic respiratory illnesses due to bad air quality, or when they suffer with shutoffs because of lack of ability to pay during the COVID crisis, or because of overcharging due to the need for weatherization of homes. Do you know what happens to the people of frontline communities when a major disaster comes to town? Neither do they. What I can tell you is that they are the worst impacted by severe winds and floods that have the worst time of all when it comes to recovery of their communities. Yet the term frontline communities nor community resilience building are ever mentioned in any plan that has been presented to this council. Don't be fooled by the constant promise by utility companies that they are moving the change from fossil fuel to solar. TECO says that it is capable of and has a plan to double their solar capabilities by 2023. Where's the plan? No frontline community has ever seen a plan towards clean energy that benefits them because it has never existed. The critical need for 100% clean energy is here, and any utilities should be required by this council to commit to, as I am urging this council to commit to this urgent need, to take it seriously, and to work now towards achieving real environmental goals for Tampaños, especially frontline communities, by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi there, my name is Brooke. I'm just another Tampa citizen. You might remember me from over the summer, but I'm also here today for the environmental 100% clean by 2030. I ask you to please vote yes on this. I thank you for all being here to even bring this up to a vote today. And I just want to argue, even just from a place of self-interest, not just for my own, not just for the people in this room, but for our whole city. We will be doing much better off if we're not underwater, as well as if we have some clean jobs, and if we also use this as an opportunity for not just environmental and economic health, but environmental justice. I don't want to have to base whether I have kids or if based on whether they're going to be able to have a full life and not in a water world. Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. My name is B. John Elving. I'm a resident of Tampa since 1994. I urge you to vote yes on the resolution to move our city to 100% clean, renewable energy by 2030. Agenda item 98, I believe. Following the discussion before City Council on this same topic a few weeks ago, I have spoken with my brother, who many of you met. His name is Henk Oving, and he is Special Envoy for International Water Affairs, Kingdom of the Netherlands, and Sherpa to the United Nations World Bank High-Level Panel on Water. What we are discussing here today is what he does for a living. He assists city, state, and country governments worldwide in finding solutions for a climate crisis. He has submitted a separate email, which I urge you to read. I would like to highlight a few things from our discussion. Last year, Tampa ranked number 4 for metro areas with the highest residential energy use. Cities contribute high shares of global carbon dioxide emissions. Resource extraction and processing alone cause over 90% of global biodiversity loss and water stress, and about half the effect of global climate change. Yet, cities also offer clear opportunities to reduce emissions and develop a climate-resilient future infrastructure. Urban energy systems have emerged as a key focus of mitigation and adaptation strategies. By 2050, cities will need to accommodate 2/3 of the world population in a livable, low-carbon environment. Accelerated uptake in locally produced renewables can strengthen the urban community, create new jobs, and improve people's living conditions and welfare. Tampa is a port city. The climate crisis is a water crisis. 9 in 10 natural disasters are water-related. The way we currently grow food, produce, energy, dispose of waste, and consume resources is destroying nature's delicate balance of clean air, water, and life that all species, including humans, depend on for survival. And climate change not only dries out our lands, floods our coasts, and destroys our economies. It is also the greatest threat of global health in the 21st century. We're living in one of the most uncertain, painful, and challenging moments, yet this might also be our best opportunity. Now is the time to link existing programs and sustainability ambitions with the COVID-19 relief and first response. The risk is that under pressure of having to invest now for the economy and jobs, we will undo our sustainability and resiliency actions. We cannot afford to let that happen. We must continue to look out for the most vulnerable members in our communities who are suffering disproportionately from this pandemic, who bear the brunt of the injustices perpetrated by the fossil fuel economy, and who have fewer safety nets. We cannot wait. We must act now. Please vote yes on the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, good morning. My name is Nancy Stevens. I'm a citizen of Tampa and Conservation Chair for the Tampa Bay Sierra Club. I'm also speaking on item 98. Our Sierra Club Chair, Kent Bailey, recently passed away, but a few weeks before he died, he actually shared some thoughts on this looming crisis that I'm going to read here. When it comes to sea level rise predictions, the mainstream prognosticators have consistently underestimated sea level projections and shamelessly revised them upward with every iteration. Now it appears that the Thwaites Glacier is teetering on the brink of collapse. And that could bring 3 to 4 meters of sea level rise by the end of the century all by itself. To say nothing of the pressure that would put on the other coastal ice in Antarctica. The deeper the water on the coast, the more lift there is pulling away ice from the land. Somehow, we've got to get more realistic projections of the future sea level rise into the discussion. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves unprepared for the unexpected. The 2015 KCC storm surge study, produced for the insurance industry, named Tampa Bay as the nation's most vulnerable metro area and projected $175 billion of property damage from storage alone from a Cat 4 storm impact. Sea level rise and increasingly severe storms are impacting insurance rates. The impact of the availability and cost of insurance for threatened homes is making these homes more expensive to buy, will eventually lead to declining value and foreclosures. As value and tax revenue for coastal properties decline, the cost to local governments of defending, rebuilding, replacing, making more resilient critical infrastructure is going to spiral upwards. Cost to local governments is going to rise dramatically at the same time that ad valorem receipts are going to decline. If Kent were here, he'd urge you to act now. He might tell you how he's actually seen the sea level rising by sailing around Tampa Bay, and that has been higher than planning numbers have shown. He knew better than any of us that our failing to act means an unacceptable cost to our way of life here, and that it's not enough to build higher seawalls, but we must stop releasing carbon emissions that will lead to the disaster for Tampa. Tampa's, unfortunately, a leader in being susceptible to sea level rise. We must be a leader and defending against it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we miss Kent Bailey every day. Next speaker.
Good morning, Council. My name is Mary Elizabeth Estrada. I am an organizer with the Clio Institute, and I'm also a student at the University of South Florida. I go to the Patel College of Global Sustainability. I am here today to support the 100% clean energy transition by 2030 resolution and say yes to the transition away from the fossil fuel industry. As of yesterday, the United States officially withdrew from the Paris Accord Agreement, which was a plan for countries to come together and try to curb emissions and prevent a 2.7 degree Fahrenheit increase by 2050. And with all that being said, we are in a climate emergency. I am extremely proud to see this resolution pass in the city of Tampa, and when this is passed, we will join St. Pete, Sarasota, Largo, Orlando, and 164 other cities in the United States that is committed to 100% clean, renewable energy future. And so let's talk about why we need this, especially in a time when COVID has impacted communities in the city of Tampa. As climate change worsens, public health will become increasingly at risk. Hotter temperatures increase vector-borne populations, so we will see more mosquitoes and ticks. It's also going to increase heat-related conditions like heat stroke and dehydration. And the most vulnerable communities to this would be the elderly, persons with disabilities, and homeless people. Hotter temperatures have also been linked with mental health conditions and could increase aggression and crime rates. And finally, more heat means more pollution, and children are particularly vulnerable to this. Back in 2016, the World Health Organization estimated that 600,000 children globally died prematurely due to respiratory illness. We know that the installation of clean energy will create long-term quality jobs. According to a study done by McKinsey & Company, green careers in the renewable technology and energy efficiency sector create more jobs than the fossil fuel industry. Retrofitting buildings, greening the grid, improving transportation infrastructure All of these are going to create jobs to improve the quality of life here in Tampa. And tourism is a huge part of our local economy and culture. We have theme parks, Bay Area activities, unique small businesses, and by transitioning to clean energy by 2030, we are going to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions and lessen the impacts of climate change and sea level rise. In April of 2019, the Climate Science Advisory Panel projected that Tampa Bay could expect to see a 2 to 8.5 feet of sea level rise by 2100. The U.S. Department of Defense has also identified climate change as a national security threat to the U.S. troops and bases due to extreme weather events that will directly contribute to instability and conflict globally, especially in countries that are vulnerable and lack resilient infrastructure. So it's not all doom and gloom. Because you have chosen to support this resolution, thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Hi, good morning, Council. Thank you so much. My name is Russell Kahn. I am the chair of the Hillsborough County Democratic Environmental Caucus. I'm also the vice chair of the Hillsborough Democratic Party. Thank you all. I know you all are good and honorable, thoughtful men, and so I appreciate all of the service you have provided to our community thus far. I am here today to speak about the Ready for 100 clean energy action item as well. This is an item that is near and dear to my heart. I got involved in politics because of the environmental needs of this community, and we really cannot wait. I know many of you do what you think is best and are very thoughtful in your deliberations. Some of you may be a little bit more risk averse than others, but this is a risk for us all. Whether it's businesses in South Tampa that are going to be moving because they can't keep in operation due to sea level rise, whether it's impoverished communities, frontline communities, as my other speakers have mentioned, that can't afford the food on their table because they are spending so much on their energy costs, on their basic necessities. Weatherization is part of this plan. This will help all of us. And from a fiscal responsibility standpoint, one way or the other, we are going to be paying for the climate change that is affecting us. Whether it's man-made or not is irrelevant for the actions that we have to take to address these concerns. If we don't spend the capital investments in our communities now, we will not be prepared to address them later. A dollar in time saves 9. Okay, guys? This is extremely important that we make the capital investments into our communities, into our businesses, our economy. Our lifeblood is our tourism and our green spaces, our clean water and clean air. So please, please consider voting on this today. Do not table it, do not delay it. This cannot wait. So thank you very much, all of you, for your very thoughtful and dedicated service to our community.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Good morning, Council. Phil Compton, Sierra Club, and resident of Tampa, 1430 Park Circle. We all remember the election 4 years ago, right? 2 weeks after that, St. Pete City Council took action. They knew that they couldn't wait for Tallahassee and Washington to save us from the climate crisis. They passed the first 100% clean energy resolution in the South. Since then, 168 other cities and 8 states have joined St. Pete in working for their own 100% clean energy future. It's time we got busy. The good news is there are plenty of things that we can learn from all these other cities. We don't have to start from square one like St. Pete did. We know it's important to move to a just and equitable transition to 100% clean energy as soon as possible. But can we afford to do so? That's the question, right? Well, I'll tell you, we can't afford not to. It is already cheaper to go with clean energy, solar, battery storage, and demand-side management. New analysis of economics of clean energy versus gas shows that building gas-burning power plants costs more than buying clean energy options available today to Florida utilities. And the biggest losers are us, the utilities customers, families and businesses who are stuck paying for gas with plants and pipelines expected to be too expensive to operate in just over a decade. A year ago, the Rocky Mountain Institute released a new analysis that challenged the idea that gas plants were needed for reliability, energy, or flexibility. Solar energy, battery storage, and demand-side management consistently beat performance of a new gas plant and at a lower cost to consumers. New gas plants are likely to get undercut on an operating basis alone by clean energy within 15 years. Now, I understand TECO is concerned about stranded assets. No wonder. Regardless of whether council acts or not, they'll soon have stranded assets anyway. But solar isn't the only resource with enormous potential. An Electric Power Research Institute report estimates that the cost-saving energy efficiency potential in Florida is roughly 20% of our total electricity demand. This is the most important thing we can do to advance equity in our community. Many households now suffer immense energy burdens with extremely inefficient homes and bills of hundreds of dollars a month, taking a huge bite out of their low income. During this COVID economic crisis, TECO is now faced with cutting off power to people who can't keep up with their bills. What's the answer? It's not like TECO wants to do that. The first thing to do is to move to 100% clean energy, is to tackle the energy burden and lower everyone's energy demand. Let's get more efficient, especially people who can't now finance home improvements that would save them money on their power bills. Let's create jobs here in Tampa, in solar installation, in weatherization, not fracking jobs in Ohio, in Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. Let's all work together to plan how we'll move our city to a future that's cleaner, more cost-effective, more just and equitable for all of us, 100% clean energy. Now, when this election is finally resolved, Joe Biden intends to put forward legislation that would move the nation to 100% clean energy by 2035. That might take a year, that might take two, it might never happen. We can't wait for Tallahassee, we can't wait for Washington. Tampa needs to get moving right now so that we can tackle this problem the way we need to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else from the public that wishes to speak? Before we go to the folks that are registered to speak, Mr. Shelby and Madam Clerk, I have a question. On the list is a gentleman named Kelly Benjamin, who has been trying to get through. He did register in time, he is on the list, but for the last 2 hours, for the last hour and a half, he just cannot get through. He sent me a text message of what he wants to say. I know that becomes a public record. If we receive and file that and I copy the text and give it to all council members and make it a public record like that, is that legally fine? Is there any issue because he sent me a text message on something, although not quasi-judicial, that we may or may not be voting on?
Mr. Chairman, let me see if I understand. This is relating to a general public comment that he's not able.
Yeah, but it's about this resolution.
So he can't phone in and he's not present.
And the clerk has emailed him. I don't know why. Nothing.
Is it a long?
No,
text?
I can read it in 30 seconds.
Well, then, sure. What you said is exactly done, and it'll be made part of the record.
Okay.
And certainly, that'll be. Thank you for disclosing that.
Thank you very much.
And appreciate that.
I can probably do this in 45 seconds. All right. This is from. Before we go to the live callers, this is from Kelly Benjamin, who did register. He says, "For a city like ours, a city at sea level that is prone to some of the worst impacts from climate change, taking the stand as a city to commit to 100% clean energy by 2030 is a no-brainer. It should be 2020. It should have been yesterday. We've known about the science of our heating planet due to burning fossil fuels for 40 years. It's the lack of political will and deliberate misinformation from the fossil fuel industry that has delayed action and allowed the planet to get to the tipping point. No doubt about it. We are in a climate emergency. Tampa cannot wait. I urge you to adopt this resolution so that my daughter, who turns 6 years old this week, has a future, a city that she can breathe healthy air in as she grows up. It's beyond time we join St. Pete, Largo, Sarasota, Orlando, and 164 other U.S. cities who are already on their way to 100% clean energy future. This is an important step, and it should not be pushed any further down the road. Let's adopt this resolution and begin building a sustainable city today." Those are the words of Kelly Benjamin. All right, thank you very much. Yes. Yes.
Hi, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Council and Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for disclosing that, and certainly now it's part of the record. But I just want to bring to the public's attention, and also to remind council, I know council knows that. Council, you have personal devices that can communicate 2 ways you receive and you can send things. But obviously, you know, this is a public meeting, and we've discussed this before, but the public doesn't necessarily know it, that it puts city council in a very difficult, sometimes an awkward position to be able to receive communications during the meeting, because quite frankly, those do raise a lot of issues. If you do see incoming messages and texts relating to items that are on your agenda or related to city business. So I'm just going to caution council to be mindful of those things when they come in, that you should be aware of the implications of receiving them. And I'm just going to bring to public's attention, the public has multiple ways, and I'm going to remind them that all those ways are available on the City Council's website, tampagov.net /City Council, one word, for ways to be able to do that. I understand there is a deadline. There's also a kiosk here. You can also make your way down now to the convention center if you don't want to come into the chambers for public health reasons. But just for the public's notification, that it is very problematic to send communications to City Council during a public meeting, because the question then raises, is it then outside of the public? So thank you very much, City Council.
All right, thank you very much. We will go to our live callers that are registered. I have a list here. Madam Clerk, if you'd like to begin.
Good morning, Chair. I'm sorry, I was having a little bit of difficulty. The first speaker that we have for public comment is going to be Don DeFawcett. Don, I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, thank you very much. I'm a Stovall owner and wanted to comment on item 79 on the agenda. Also, I want to mention, just so there's no conflict at all, that I serve on the Tampa Sports Authority Board along with Councilman Gudis, and he and I have had 0 discussions on this matter. So anyway, my comment is regarding the rezoning of the property next to the Stovall where I'm a resident. Your individual legacies will be forever associated with this decision to change the minimal spacing between high-rise towers on our Tampa Bay coastline. This was demonstrated by presentations from Stovall owners at the first hearing to be at least 90 feet current practice. I did a quick and easy Google search and found many cities worldwide have codified these spacing requirements. Most that have
That was quasi, yeah.
Hello, can you hear me?
Is this live? Yes, Don, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, just a moment, sir.
Okay.
Sir, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
This is not working very well.
well.
Turn it off this way. Can this gentleman hear me now, Eric? Okay. Into the microphone. Okay, sir, are you, is this a video accessible call, Madam Clerk? Okay, sir, do you have you registered for a video participation? Madam Clerk, is he on the line? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. DeFawcett is unmuted, and I can hear him.
Okay.
Okay.
I just want to be able to technically talk into the right place at the right time.
Okay. And if you can hear me, I'm prepared to speak on item 79 on the agenda for today, but if you can't hear me, we'll have to make other arrangements, I guess.
Well, sir.
Me now?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay, thank you. This is Martin Shelby, the City Council Attorney. Sir, have you registered to speak video through video participation?
Yes.
Okay, then my apologies, and I apologize to City Council for not catching this sooner. Thank you, Councilman. The items, and this goes for the general public as well, if you are here to speak on an item that is set for a public hearing, the time to speak is when that item is called up. And this, I believe, is item number 79. Did I hear that correctly? Thank you very much.
That's correct, and how I registered myself to speak on that specific rezoning item.
Okay, well, thank you very much, sir. Just a reminder to the public, and I thank you for your understanding and patience. This is the first hybrid meeting that's being conducted under these circumstances, the Tampa Convention Center. So we're going through a new process now, and I ask that you bear with us while we work through these issues. So your item will be held then till item 79 is called up, sir, if you could remain accessible and keep tabs on it as we move along. Thank you.
Of course, I understand. Thank you.
And this would also be applicable, ladies and gentlemen who are waiting. If you're here for a public hearing item, the time to speak is when that item is called up on the agenda and not during this period of the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, well, the difficulty was I did.
Thank you very much. All right, I guess next up is Michael Randolph on the list.
Correct, Chair. The next speaker is going to be Michael Randolph. Michael, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you and you have 3 minutes to speak. Hello, Mr. Randolph.
Good, you can hear me. So my name is Michael Randolph, and I'm with the Center for Nonprofit and Community Development. I'm also with the a board member of West Tampa CDC. Just want to give a couple updates and then get into the West Tampa project. Currently, we have been selected, the Center for Nonprofit, to work in Tampa Heights and Rovers Park on that master plan. I want the residents for Tampa Heights that feel as though you've been knocked out of the process, that you now have a seat at the table and your voice is very important. The next thing I want to talk about is a partnership that we just started with the Network for Developing Community of Conscience. This particular organization out of DC is connected to over $27 billion that corporate America have been put into the pot for racism and gentrification. We plan to bring in at least a couple of $100 million back from that partnership to West Tampa to fund projects related to gentrification and institutional racism. The next on the item is that we've also partnered with the first Black cable network in the country out of Atlantic, Georgia. If you remember the guy Jefferson on Moving On Up, he did that. He's very connected to Hollywood, and he's very concerned about concerns related to African American. As a matter of fact, we're going to get a national platform with him. The next thing I want to talk about is affordable housing and two giants that we bring into the table, LIFT and the Enterprise Foundation. Collectively together, they have over $1 trillion to put into affordable housing. So that being the case, let me move to our current project, which is the West Tampa CDC Technology, Wealth Building, and Job Creation Center. Let me share with you some elements to that plan, 6-part plan. The first plan part is what we call the Technology and STEM Center. In that center, residents in West Tampa are going to be learning how to code through mobile application, network, software engineer, software developer, wireless network, and web development, along with some other things. We also plan to increase the number of African Americans going into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. The second part of that plan is called the Performing Art and Production Center. That's going to include an art center, recording studio, video, TV production, radio production, marketing and planning, and entertainment center. This is specifically focused on getting those young people off the corner with a gun and putting a mic into their hand. The next part of the plan is called the Business Development Center. We plan to start anywhere from 50 to 75 community-owned resident business in West Tampa. We call it Building Wealth. We're also doing, for the fourth item, is a Business Incubator Center. And then next to that, we're going to do what we call our Community Wealth Center. This is based on teaching residents how to build wealth, from stocks and bonds to all those other things. It's teaching them to move from a consumer to an investor perspective. The last part of that is what we call our social enterprise. In addition to the project related to the center that we're doing, we also plan to bring online 3 additional businesses in West Tampa that's going to be owned by the community. It's about community wealth. It's about giving people an opportunity to have that voice speak. And more importantly, it's about bringing the money with you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next speaker, please.
Chair, the next speaker that we have is going to be Elise Batsil. Elise, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Batsil, are you there?
Let's skip to the next person and go back to her if she has troubles connecting. Justin Taylor's the next speaker.
Chair, Justin Taylor was registered. Excuse me, he's on now. Give me 1 moment. Justin, if you're there, you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. So my name is Justin Taylor. I'm a architectural project manager at Pt.1 Design. I just wanted to express my support for the 100% clean energy plan Tampa is pursuing. From an architecture point of view, and our office develops high efficiency buildings. And I'd like to point to one of the places that have implemented something like this, which is I visited as part of a program with the state of New York. This was in Holland. A couple of years back, they instituted the same kind of energy targets for the whole country. And out of that, they created a public-private partnership to deliver net zero retrofits to affordable housing that paid for themselves. And what this program developed into is called Energy Sprong, which translates to Energy Leap, that has now retrofitted roughly 100,000 affordable housing units and to net zero. And the companies and strategies that were created as a means of accomplishing this, these are retrofits that occur within a week, and they weatherize homes and get them to net zero. These companies and strategies have spread throughout Europe and have become the basis for a new program that the U.S. Department of Energy and the Rocky Mountain Institute and the NYSERDA, which is the Energy Development Corporation out of the state of New York, are developing to deliver the same kind of programs here in the U.S. I think there is a great opportunity to create new businesses out of these, and you can even look in other places, even in North America. City of Vancouver has also pushed for these kind of targets, and they're now seeing these new businesses being brought up, and there's a lot of attention going on now on the building sector just for these retrofits and just increased building efficiency in general. And all of that comes from these targets of 100% renewable energy, which we can get to a lot faster by reducing energy usage in buildings. And at the same time, it will help us to, with our resiliency targets for our communities here in Florida in general. So that's it. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you very much.
Chair, the next speaker is going to be Paris Jurgenis. Paris, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead. We can hear you.
I would like to thank you for giving myself and my neighbors the opportunity to speak to you about how Park and Rec is negatively impacting our lives. My name is Paris Jurgenis, and I reside at the Towers of Channelside 449 South 12th Street for the last 4.5 years. My unit is on the 6th floor, directly above Park Rec, facing the new USF School of Medicine. One of the necessities for a happy and happy home life is a good night's sleep. Since Park and Rec moved into the ground floor of our residential building, the loud music and the yelling from its patrons while drinking on the patio has made a good night's sleep impossible. The bass from the music can be heard and felt through our home till 3 a.m. Having a balcony was one of the major reasons why we bought this home. Park and Rec's patrons become louder as the evening progresses, making it impossible to enjoy a balcony. Their rides drop them off and pick them up under our bedroom window. Their exuberance and the loud music coming from the cars often keeps us awake. On the weekends, Meridian Street has become an Uber and Lyft stand. Last Sunday, on November 1st, at about 6 p.m., I was walking my dogs around the building and had to turn back because a fight had spilled out from Park and Rec onto the sidewalk. This is not uncommon. There are times when our safety comes into question. On many morning walks, we have to walk around the vomit, urine, and even feces left by the patrons the night before. Another concern for us is that any prospective buyers would think twice about purchasing a condo at the towers after walking around the building. I grew up in the city of Boston, and I'm used to normal city noises, but the noise coming from Park and Rec is not normal. We are very excited by the growth of the city around us, but we ask for your help to get back our home life. We ask that you limit the hours that Park and Rec can hold their parties to no later than 11 p.m. Thank you for your time and understanding.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Chair. So the next speaker that we're going to have is going to be Allison Date. Allison, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, I'm Allison Date, and I wanted to express my concern over the continuing loss of Tampa's, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong. I'm calling about 2 things today. I wanted to urge the Tampa City Council to vote on the resolution to ban fossil fuels and fossil fuel infrastructures. Perhaps that means the new Tico plant that's in store for us, I hope so, and to support transition to Tampa to 100% clean renewable energy. I really am so excited and happy that you have made this move to go in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Yes, the next speaker is going to be Chris Vila. Chris, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Link. This is Chris Vela, 33605. I'm just urging City Council to pass a resolution for Tampa to be clean by 2030. Look, climate change doesn't have any politics. It doesn't even judge on race. We do that. And what I mean by that is there was a young gentleman that came up and spoke on Walter Smith's behalf. And he mentioned about being close to pollution. Well, in my case, I'm dealing with 2 city council members right now in the MPO who are allowing expansion of fossil burning to occur on the interstate because I'm in what's called by the federal government in the area of potential effects. And they say that 1,000 feet away from the interstate. Well, guess what, folks? I'm 150 feet away from the interstate. And guess what? All the CRA areas are within that 100 feet. And so when I say, like, you know, when pollution doesn't have a bias, it doesn't. It's based on your political decisions, and I'm always going to hold you guys accountable for that. Now, I wanted to talk about what St. Pete has done. They passed what's called an ISAP. It's a nice program, and hopefully WIT will review that. However, what's missing from that report is a priority for minorities. We need to focus on making environmental justice a top priority for the CRA areas. Another issue is this. There's only 2 city council members right now, Lewis and Guido, that, and myself, outside of city council, that will see the city get overrun with storm surges and water. Everything these city council members do is going to be eroded before their eyes right before they die. And that is a really sad tale, and we cannot move forward to that at all. Now, in America, we have a lot of solutions. That is, let's eliminate all this lawn equipment that's happening on our right-of-way. Just an hour of using this equipment equates to nearly 1,000 miles of a car drive. We know that Seattle's pushing for electrical garbage trucks. We need to follow that. We also know the fire department, and specifically in California, are using smaller EV fire trucks, which means less road widening and more green response that's mixed into emergency situations. The other thing is my great friend Jason Ball mentioned that we should look at retention areas and allow solar panels to float in those areas until a better resolution or situation can occur. And lastly, we need to focus on carbon trading. We are in a $50 billion green bond market. Our minorities can be pushed towards that tech industry and also be brokers for carbon trading. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Yes, Chair, the next speaker that we have is going to be Susan Glickman. Mr. Glickman, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Glickman, are you there? Okay, Chair, next speaker that we're going to have is going to be
Wait, just a moment. Councilman Goods? Please speak into the microphone. We have like another 9 people or so.
How many voicemails?
A lot. We have, how many voicemails do we have? Do you know? 22 voicemails. So
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So I've been, point of order, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wondering this for a while because these keep getting longer and longer. So we're starting our meeting at 9. We're not going to really start doing anything until 11 or something. Our rules speak to a total of 30 minutes of public comment. Is that correct, Mr. Shelby?
That's what the agenda says.
And that's what the agenda says. So, I mean, I think obviously public comment's extremely important, and we have a lot of important issues that obviously a lot of people in the community want to speak to.
Right.
But we've never addressed this 30-minute issue, and it's been going on for a couple months now. And I know, Mr. Chairman, you are the nicest person, one of the nicest people I know, and you don't want to step on people's toes, you know, in that regard. But at the same time, you know, we got a lot of staff folks waiting around, and you know, anyway. I just wanted to throw it out there. And
all right.
If I can, Mr. Chairman, Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Council is right. Councilman Dingfelder is right about Council's 30-minute rule. I should also point out that if you take final action on a matter, Florida statutes was amended several years ago to require that the public have a right to be able to address council before council takes official action on any matter. That complicates things a little bit. And finally, council, all this new technology that gives people the opportunity to make these calls and stuff, that's going to really factor into it, and how council addresses it now that you're back in person. So that being said, the last thing that I need to address is that council, when you went to meetings at Tampa Convention Center, you by motion and vote made particularly with workshops and regular meetings, to put public comment at the very beginning of the meeting, so you may want to visit that as well. But these are points well taken, and now that you have multiple ways of people to be able to communicate, you're really seeing the fact that participation is increasing. And that does have an effect on your meetings, and that will have to be addressed in the way you do business, because you do have official business you do ultimately have to get to.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Yes?
I'm on the line. I apologize. It's Susan Glickman, and I'm on the line.
Okay, go ahead. Madam Clerk, if you can start her clock, and then we'll continue down the list.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm Susan Glickman. I'm the Florida Director of Southern Alliance for Clean Energy. And originally, Councilmember Citro, we scheduled an in-person workshop on clean energy. So I'm going to take that workshop and give it to you in about 3 minutes. So number one, I want to address my support for the city of Tampa committing to 100% renewables. I want to speak to why, number one, we must move right now. Number two, I want to share some information that this really doesn't cost more. There's a misconception that somehow moving to clean energy costs more. And I want to outline some of the many benefits by moving, some of which have been addressed earlier. Mary Elizabeth Estrada talked about the Tampa Bay Science Advisory Panel. And what I want to add to that was they originally did sea level rise projections in 2005. And when they updated them in 2019, the projections were 12 to 18 inches higher. So we're seeing movement, as has said before, so we really have to address it. But even if we turn the CO2 spigot off tomorrow, we're in for 2 or 3 feet. So the reason that it's so important for you to commit to 100% is that when you find yourself in a hole, you have to stop digging, because this is costing our community already. I see more pronouncedly down in South Florida, where they're tracking costs. Miami-Dade County has $23 billion in resilience and capital costs in their 5-year plan. So make no mistake, and this is under the heading of the fact that this just simply does not cost more to move to clean energy, because we are already paying for it. Just Tuesday, Tampa Electric announced that residential customers who use 1,000 kilowatts, that their bills are going to go up from $97.69 to $105, and they cited the cost of gas going up. Not to mention the $853 million to convert their coal plant to gas, when we could actually meet our need with energy efficiency, solar storage, and the electrification of transportation. As a fundamental policy, we have to stop letting polluters pollute for free, because we are all paying for it. With near-road air pollution, we've heard discussed, stronger hurricanes, extreme weather, the heat. And on the other side of the equation, you know, we send $57 billion from Florida out of here every state to bring in fossil fuel from somewhere else. So when we become more efficient or we use solar, we are keeping those energy dollars here at home. We're providing jobs. We're protecting public health. So after all, COVID is a respiratory virus. So every time we take an internal combustion engine off the road, we are protecting people's health. We are saving energy and we are saving money. I'll give you one example. You can run an electric vehicle on electricity that costs about 11 cents a kilowatt hour. That would be the equivalent of paying 99 cents for a gallon of gas. It's cheaper, and I can provide you with all the data. Consumer Reports just came out with an analysis that the average EV owner will save $6,000 to $10,000 a year over the life. So I think that's really the most important thing. We have to stop letting polluters to pollute for free, and we have to understand that it does not cost more. And in fact, with all the benefits of protecting our public health and creating jobs and avoiding the worst impacts of climate change, it's the economically smart thing to do. So with that,
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, next speaker.
Chair, the next speaker is going to be Britton Evans. Ms. Evans, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Evans, are you there? Okay, the next speaker is going to be Dr. Lynn Riggenberg. If you're there, you're going to have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Hi, Thanks for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. I'm Dr. Lynn Ringenberg, Professor Emeritus at the University of South Florida College of Medicine, a 26-year Army veteran. I live in Tampa. I practiced medicine in Tampa for 40 years. I've been studying the health consequences of our climate crisis for over a decade and a half. And I'm really concerned about the health of people living in this beautiful place called Tampa Bay. We've been breathing polluted air now for decades. We're a lot smarter now. We know that we have other opportunities for clean air. And I'm especially worried about our vulnerable populations, our pregnant women and their fetuses, our infants and young children, the elderly, those with chronic health issues, and especially our frontline communities who are harmed even more by the effects of this climate crisis. And also, as you know, our frontline communities are impacted more by the COVID pandemic. Researchers tell us that the chronic exposure to fine particle air pollution increases the risk of being hospitalized and to die from COVID-19. Let me tell you, the climate crisis and the COVID-19 crisis are not equal opportunity impactors. We are in a climate and health crisis. It's not climate change any longer. It's a climate crisis and a health crisis. This is serious. And we don't have a long time to get it right. Most of the science points to maybe a decade, probably less, to transition to 100% clean, renewable energy. So we need to get this done. If we can do it by 2030, great. If we could do it by 2028, even better. As we've seen with this pandemic, the economy doesn't work well when people are sick and struggling, and they will continue to become sicker and struggle more as our climate crisis worsens. We know that burning fossil fuels like coal and natural gas, actually natural gas is not clean. It's not a transition fuel, it's a fossil fuel, and it's actually 86 times more potent a greenhouse gas than coal over a short time, like 20 years. Well, we don't have 20 years. And burning these fuels produces a toxic stew of air pollutants that harms health. There's tons of science on this, evidence-based science. We have worsening asthma, increased hospitalizations and premature deaths from lung disease, heart arrhythmias, heart attacks, strokes, and other neurologic diseases, along with premature births and low birth weight babies. This happens every day. We see these health issues in Tampa Bay. Everything, and I mean everything, that we are experiencing in this climate crisis, from sea level rise, storm surge, flooding, intensity of storms, hurricanes, vector waterborne diseases, algae blooms, increased heat, wildfires, food and water insecurity, a breakdown in community cohesion, population migration, harms public health. It all harms public health. And it places a huge burden on the healthcare systems in Tampa Bay and across the country.
Thank you very much.
And, oh, is my...
No, keep going, keep going. Never mind.
Say again?
No, thank you.
Do I have more time or not?
No, you've reached the limit. Thank you very much.
Okay, I couldn't hear it. Thank you.
All right, next speaker.
The next speaker is going to be Reverend Nettie Estudillo. Okay, if you're there, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Buenos dias. Good morning to all the members of the Tampa City Council, and thank you so much for your service. My name is Nedia Estudillo. I am a Venezuelan American, a Presbyterian pastor, and a Florida organizer for Green Faith, a multi-faith organization working with faith communities to meet the environmental challenges of our time. On behalf of people of faith like myself, concerned about the impact of climate change on the most vulnerable people in our community and around the world, on biodiversity and the lives of future generations, I want to urge the Tampa City Council to join our neighbors near and far to seize this moment and to vote yes on the resolution to ban fossil fuels and to transition our beautiful city of Tampa, my home, to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. As you have already heard, Climate scientists tells us that there is no time to lose. We are at a crossroads with less than 10 years to make the right choices. Climate change is a threat, but can also be a blessing because it provides us an opportunity to be in the right side of history among the people who will determine the future of our planet and the lives of millions of people. And it isn't just cities who are accepting to lead with courage and bold actions to stop climate change. You know, religious leaders like myself are also working with our faith communities and families and across faith traditions to create a path to climate justice, transforming the way we live, the way we eat, the way we move, the way we worship, the way we celebrate and relate to our neighbors, the way we use our buildings and grounds. As people of faith, we know that there are times when we need to make choices and decisions for the common good, rather than just for a select few. And so we are ready. We're ready to join you in passing this resolution and all the steps that would follow after that. And we appreciate your support as we seek to live our faith, mindful of our neighbors and brothers and sisters and the plight of future generations. I pray that you will recognize the blessing that we can be together by adding the city of Tampa to a precious number of cities across the state, across the nation, and around the world. We're putting an end to the threat of climate change. So thank you so much for considering to pass this resolution today, and God bless you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
The next speaker is going to be Maria Morales Ferrebas. Ms. Ferrebas, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you very much. My name is Maria Morales, and I am a USF graduating student and a USF Latino scholar. I remember swimming in the lake of my hometown, Maracaibo, and walking out with remains of fossil fuel in my body. Imagine this happening to our residents, our tourists. I urge the City Council of Tampa to vote yes on the resolution to ban fossil fuels and fossil fuel infrastructure and transition Tampa community-wide to 100% clean energy by 2030. In 2018, Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico and its electrical grid. However, Casa Pueblo, a community center in the mountains that was powered by solar energy, was able to withstand the storm and was the only source of energy to the community for weeks. If we transition to clean energy, we are going to have our city be more resilient in the face of extreme weather events. Tampa cannot wait. We are on a climate emergency. Do it for our children. We need you. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Thank you. Next speaker.
The next speaker is going to be Jenna Stevens. Ms. Stevens, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you so much, City Council, for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Jenna Stevens. I'm the State Director for Environment Florida. I'm also a resident of the City of Tampa. I'm here today to speak on behalf of our 4,300 supporters in Tampa and to urge Tampa City Council to pass the resolution to transition Tampa's community-wide to 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. Everything that makes Florida so special, from our springs to our beaches and our wild places like the Everglades, will disappear if we don't drastically change the way we produce and consume energy. As a planet, as a country, and here as the Tampa community, we need to move away from dirty fuels like coal, oil, and gas as quickly as possible and towards 100% clean renewable sources like solar and wind. Florida in so many ways is the poster child for climate impacts, so we need to be the national leader for solutions. Here in Tampa, we are not immune to climate impacts. The Tampa Bay region could face nearly 42 inches of sea level rise by 2060, according to the Tampa Bay Climate Science Advisory Panel. Some areas of Tampa Bay are already having sunny day flooding. And with more frequent and intense hurricanes, our city is increasingly at risk. The good news is that we do have the power to harness clean, abundant energy from the sun and the wind, and we can do it more efficiently and cheaply than ever before. We can have a healthier community right now and a livable future for generations to come. But to get there, we need to transform the way that we produce and consume energy. And that means setting our sights on a 100% clean, renewable energy future citywide. That is why, as you discussed the pieces of the resolution today, I urge you to support the transition of our city to 100% clean, renewable energy. And thank you again for taking the time to hear all of the public comments on this issue.
Thank you very much.
The next speaker is going to be Yannick Yoshizwa. If you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you're going to have 3 minutes to speak.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yannick Yoshizawa. I'm a resident of Tampa Bay for the past 12 years. And first of all, I just wanted to thank all the council members, along with the city clerk staff, for all the hard work you guys do for the city of Tampa during this unprecedented time. We, a household of 2 adults of 30 years of age, along with a 7-year-old child, are here to support the act to have 100% clean energy by 2030. With this in mind, I want to bring to light the project Dear Tomorrow, which is a program of United Charitable, and you can write your letter on deartomorrow.org. To summarize this initiative, it's an exercise to reflect upon our future. It is for you to write a letter to your loved ones or anyone you would like to communicate as if they would be reading this letter in 2050, which is written by you today. With that said, we're here today to read you a letter we wrote to the City Council of 2050 on this matter of clean energy. Dear City Council members of 2050, today, November 5th, 2020, I've had the honor to speak and now waiting to hear on the decision of Mr. Citro, Miranda, Dingfelder, Carlson, Gudis, Maniscalco, and Vieira on the matter of bringing 100% clean energy by 2030 to Tampa. As you're seeing the results more vividly than we are today, climate change continues to create several challenges to society and will do even more in the future if action is not taken. We know fossil fuels has been a large contributor to the issues we have, and it's a finite source where it's not sustainable for us here in 2020 and definitely not for you in 2050. As we have seen in the past, in the present, and hopefully not so much in the future, large corporations have influenced politics, which the effects have impacted our planet Earth, which, interesting enough, it's impacting us now. With that said, I will end this letter to say I'm confident the Tampa 2020 City Council members will make the best decision, not only for themselves, not only for the City of Tampa, but for you who is now reading this letter in 2050, which will be to say yes to 100% clean energy as early as possible. Hoping you're still able to live in the state of Florida with a mild weather, without many hurricanes and floods. This will mean this initiative and many others to protect us along with planet Earth have been accomplished. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that's standing by for a live call?
Yes, Chair, there's 2, Ms. Britton Evans and Ms. Elise Batsil.
Okay.
I would like to go back to Ms. Elise Batsil. If you're on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Batsil, please unmute yourself. Okay, I will move on to Ms. Britton Evans. If you're still on the line, please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great. Okay. Thanks for giving me one more chance. I'll try to keep this quick. My name is Britton Evans, and I'm here on behalf of Friends of the Earth Action and our membership here in Tampa in support of 100% renewable energy by 2030. Friends of the Earth Action is committed to advancing social, economic, and environmental justice while protecting public health and safety. And so that's why we fully endorse the resolution opposing all new fossil fuel infrastructure in the city and calling for community-wide 100% renewable energy by 2030. In August of 2004, I lost my childhood home and subsequently my grandfather when Hurricane Charlie tore through Punta Gorda. And it devastated that town. And the reason why I wanted to tell you that is because not just because climate change is very personal to me, but also, as you may remember, Hurricane Charlie was forecast to hit Tampa Bay which triggered one of the biggest, if not the biggest, evacuations in the city's history. And Tampa dodged a bullet that year, but unfortunately my family did not. And year after year, residents in this city and across Florida live with the fear and uncertainty of when the next big storm is going to hit. And climate change is making that fear and trauma worse. And I can only speak to my own personal story, but this is who I am and why I'm here on behalf of Friends of the Earth to ask you to take serious steps to address the climate crisis. My heart really goes out to everyone who is worried about where they will go when the next major hurricane hits, if they will lose everything this year or whether it's going to be the next year. Climate change is a social justice issue. And so many families and too many are one natural disaster away from losing everything, including my own. And that's just one of the reasons why council must act now and transition Tampa away from fossil fuels by 2030. Not 2040, not 2045, and definitely not 2050. The window for us to stop catastrophic climate change is closing very quickly, and major action must be taken starting now. And it's the job of this council to take into consideration the best interests of Tampa's residents. And that means having a vision and a plan to end the burning of fossil fuels that is driving this crisis. And like I said, it is a social justice issue. Fossil fuels make people sick, but not everyone feels those impacts evenly. Pollution disproportionately affects Black, Indigenous, and people of color, who are more likely to breathe polluted air because these communities are often situated next to highways and near power plants that make them sick. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, because environmental racism is well documented. The question is, what are you going to do about it? And it's the responsibility of this council to ensure that all people living in Tampa, regardless of race or class or their zip code, can breathe clean air, live healthier and more resilient lives, and know that their leaders have their backs, and you're doing everything in your power to lessen the degree to which climate change is affecting people. So again, Friends of the Earth Action strongly endorses this resolution before us, and we urge you to adopt the resolution and move quickly to implement these solutions.
Thank you very much.
Also ask you.
Thank you. All right. Do we have anybody else speaking live?
Chair, would you like to go back to Ms. Elise Batsil?
Sure, one more time.
Okay, Ms. Batsil, if you're on the line, I'm going to unmute you. Please unmute yourself, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, actually, I signed up on item 54 rather than public comment, so I'll hold till that item comes before it.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody else that's live? Yes?
No, Chair, there is no other public comments on my list.
Elise, if you're still on the line, it's not a public hearing, it's under the consent agenda. If you want to speak to that item now, which was it, item 54 you said?
Ms. Batsil, can you unmute yourself, please? Chair, she's still showing herself muted.
Elise, if you could unmute yourself.
Yes.
Go ahead, you can speak on 54. It's just a consent agenda item, it's not a public hearing.
It's fine. I was really only here to answer questions if anyone needed questions answered for council members.
Oh. Okay, we'll let you know if we do once we get to that. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Apologize for the-
All right. Before we go to the recorded comments, I believe it's, per the clerk, it's all based on the 98 and 99 items, which we can hear later if you don't wish to listen to those recorded comments now, because there's at least an hour of recorded messages, so we can get on with the agenda. So we can postpone that since they are recorded. We can listen to them later. If there's any objection from council members?
Mr. Chair, may I have one moment, please?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This is concerning our agenda item 98.
Okay.
And I feel that we can probably hear the rest of the public comments at the end of our meeting. I just need to make a few statements. When I first drafted this resolution, with the help of others. My thoughts and ideas were when I was fishing in Tampa Bay, looking over our skyline and seeing the smog and the haze that is over our city. This resolution was an aspiration of mine, an aspiration for this city to become a resilient, clean, green city. And I've heard from many, many people in the community. I've heard from stakeholders, business owners, and I'm sure we have all received phone calls from major corporations. Mr. Whit Reamer and I sat down and had a conversation, and the administration and Mr. Reamer are coming up with some plans. Council members, sometimes you got to shake the tree. Sometimes you got to poke the bear. We have seen the actions and reactions of how people feel about the city of Tampa taking the initiatives of a resilient, energy efficient, clean city. What I would like to propose, everybody concerned, sit down at the table. Whether it be the major corporations, neighborhood associations, the citizens, and our resiliency czar, and come to some sort of agreement, a goal, a timeline in which the city of Tampa can stand up proudly and say we are a clean, resilient city. Ladies and gentlemen, right here, right now, today, we are taking a major leap forward in just this council, along with the administration, having the aspirations of being clean. Now, I'm not a long-winded person. I don't say very much. But if I can, Mr. Chair, I would like to pull item number 98 today and bring it back after everyone has had discussion. Mr. Rimmer, you're the captain of this ship. I hope that you can keep us all informed. And I would like to bring this resolution back on March 8th under staff reports and unfinished business, if I have no objections.
Councilman Dinkfelder.
Mr. Citro, I commend you for bringing this forward to start with. And I think the bear is awake.
I did a good job.
You know, it's funny, a lot of people ask me, they said, you know, John, you served 8 years on council, and then you took off 8 years, and why'd you want to come back? And I got to tell you, one of the reasons I wanted to come back is because I looked across the bay, and I read in the newspaper, and I'd read articles about St. Pete Council and how progressive they were being on so many issues that I didn't feel like we were. I felt like Tampa was lagging behind on these progressive issues, whether or not that was civil rights or the environment or what have you. I always felt like over the last, I don't know, 8, 10 or more years that St. Pete was leading the way. So I was happy to come back to council and happy to be part of this group that, frankly, I think we've shown ourselves as being pretty progressive. And Mr. Citro, now that the bear is sort of awake, and I've had a chance to read your resolution numerous times, I'm very comfortable with it, with one exception. And it is aspirational. A resolution is not binding, it's not law, it's aspirational. It says, where do we want this community to go by 2030? And if you look at all the resolution, section 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 4, 5, and 6, at least 2 through 6 speak to where do we want to be by 2030? Where do we want to be by 2030? So the only change that I felt with some suggestions from folks in the community on both sides was that if we added 2030 to the end of the section 1, because right now it says we support a ban on fossil fuels. And I've been getting, like you guys, lots of calls. What does that mean, a ban on fossil fuels? Does that mean I can't get in my car and drive home from city council today because there's a ban on fossil fuels? So I think it is important, regardless of when we do it, that we amend section 1 to finish up by saying by 2030. But in terms of timing, again, I think this council should take the lead. I think it's fantastic that the mayor and that Mr. Reamer and that the community is going to get involved and wrestle with this and have plenty of meetings, none of which we can participate in over the next 6 months or whatever. But I don't think this council should delay. I think that was the message that we heard from people who stood at the podium, from people who called in, and probably from the recorded folks, that we shouldn't delay. This nation, this world has been aware of this problem for 20 or 30 years. I mean, they made fun of Al Gore, back in 2000, but guess what? 20 years later, here we are, taking it much, much more seriously. And we shouldn't delay. We've been delaying for decades, and I think that, Joe, I commend you tremendously for bringing this forward. I think we should do it today. We can always amend it later, but I think we should send a message and lead, because that's why people elected us. So I didn't hear a second on your motion, so I'm going to make a motion that we move forward with this resolution today, but amend section 1 and add the words by 2030 at the end of section 1.
Hold on a second. There wasn't even an opportunity for a second because I called on you to speak.
Okay.
Councilman.
Well, I just didn't hear a second.
No problem. Councilman Miranda, Councilman Carlson, Councilman Goods. Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Yep.
This is item number 98 on the agenda.
Yep.
It involves public comment that has yet to be taken, pre-recorded comment. And frankly, it would be my, and it is my opinion, that if a motion to continue this is in order, then that's appropriate to be able to then move that off the plate and at the end of the meeting, take the public comment. Or in lieu of that, if, from what I understand from the clerk, most of what is pre-recorded presently is 98 and 99, which are both items which conceivably, if it's continued, won't be final action today. So which means you can then take the public comment at the end of the meeting, or even in the future, even distribute that to council and not have it heard. Because if you were to take public comment right now, it would be a minimum of an hour, and you still have a full agenda in front of you. Right now, I believe the effort is to expedite matters, to take up 98 by Councilman Citro's position, which I believe, I don't know whether that was in the form of a motion or not. I assume it could be in the form of a motion, but what I'm saying to you is if council is going to act on this today, it would not be appropriate for several reasons to take it up now, because it is at the end of the agenda with the whole bunch of public business between now and then, including 22 quasi-judicial second readings and 2 non-quasi-judicial second readings. And there are people here for that, and there are people who are online for that as well, waiting for their ability to hear their cases. So my suggestion is you don't take up this issue right now unless it's a motion to continue. And if that's the case, then you'd be able to hear the public comments at the end. Otherwise, you're going to have to either hear public comments now, or you're going to have to wait until the end to hear the public comments before you take up this issue, the final action.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, yes, that was my motion to remove this from today and bring it back March 18th under staff reports and unfinished business. That was my motion.
We have a second from Councilman Carlson, but Councilman Miranda, do you wish to speak?
Well, I was going to speak on something, but I take my advice and back away from it.
Okay.
I heard the lady say, what are we doing about it? That means, what are you doing about it? What am I doing about it? And I want to discuss it, all three of them. But I'll do that for later.
Okay.
No, not today.
Do you want to speak, Councilman Carlson? Or I'll go to Councilman Goods and then Vieira.
If I could just for a second, I think it's clear to anybody who's been sitting around this city council that we're very pro-environment, and several of us have been trying to push initiatives related to the environment and climate change since we got elected a year and a half ago. The administration brought in a sustainability director, I think the first one ever in the city's history, and they asked us to wait on some of the initiatives we had proposed. And so we're well versed on the climate change crisis and the issues. I represent South Tampa. I've seen the maps. Everybody's very concerned. We're experiencing flooding right now. I had a conversation with Whit on the way in, and I want to do some public education on all that. If we force the vote now, we could get 7 votes. The problem, and I talked to Phil and Brooke about this yesterday, the problem as I see it is that we haven't brought the community along. And if we vote on this today, I think it'll be a hollow victory that could cause conflict in the community. There are some representatives here of the business community. It's not one company, it's not all big companies, it's lots of small companies, lots of restaurateurs and others. The problem is they just don't understand what this is. They feel blindsided by it. I got a bunch of calls in the last few days. We need a public education program. We need a program to let businesses and others know what it is. And I mentioned to Phil and Brooke yesterday, a few years ago, Kevin Beckner, when he was a county commissioner, proposed a human rights ordinance, and my firm put in a lot of pro bono time helping. And we went to the business community at first. The business community was very against it. They thought it would not be a good idea. By the end of the process, working together, the business community came to the county commission and supported it because they understood the economic impact of it. What I think would be a real victory here is if in March, the business community comes here and instead of just climate change activists, we have the business community, small businesses, large businesses, other individuals who didn't agree on this today, but would come back and support it. And we would show that it's not just city council that supports this, but we have broad community support for this as an important initiative for our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Goods and Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You got to get it right. We've got to get it right. I think that we're missing a little piece of the puzzle. We applaud Mr. Citro for his efforts to sort of open the can up to get that smell out to everybody. But I don't think everybody has been at the table to be able to express the concerns they may have for this, and also to express some things that maybe need to be included. As I talked to Whit and some other folks, I mean, some of the definitions that you were using, acronyms, frontline communities, well, I didn't know what that was until I was told what that frontline communities meant. Well, in my district, that could be a harsh issue, and isn't it possibly an issue? Well, it is an issue, and a lot of people don't really know that or know what's going on. So I think it's good that we communicate and have Mr. Weimer and his team get out there in these communities so people can understand what we're trying to do to be progressive to our communities in this environment, and also making sure that we have the business community on board as well to see what their pros and cons are, what's obtainable, what's not obtainable, and that way everyone says, I have a buy-in, and we have a great ordinance or a great resolution to boot with it both to move this forward. So I'm in favor of holding off. We want to let the community, the Sierra Club and those folks, we know you want it, we know, but we just got to get everything in to make it right for everybody. And I think once you get it right, you're going to have the best thing. We're going to outbeat St. Pete, some of these other 168 cities, and we're going to have the best ordinance or the best resolution. Again, thank you for your leadership, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilman Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, when I look at this issue of climate change and fossil fuels, I wish that on a national level we had the kind of leadership and the kind of ability in Congress where we could have a large, everybody says Marshall Plan, that's overused, but I mean it, a Marshall Plan type of an agenda with regards to climate change to make sure that we got the assets that we need to make the proper investment in all of our communities on a national basis, because in the absence of that needed leadership, we're looking at states. In the absence of that needed leadership, take the state of Florida, then we're looking at municipalities, at counties, at cities, and here we are on this issue. You know, I want to be clear that this resolution, when it does come forward, will, I believe, get a 7-0 vote. I think that what we're all saying is that it needs to be a collaborative process in terms of getting there. You may get buy-in from some people that are objecting right now. You may not get buy-in. You may get something where a lot of the folks who are objecting going, can't go with it. But guess what? It was collaborative. Everybody got to be at the table. So I don't think that, at least I'll speak for myself, I'm not looking for something that necessarily has the support of everyone at the table. I'm looking for something that where everybody at the table feels like their voices were heard, right? I think that's certainly something that's very, very important. You know, Councilman Citro, who brought this forward, wants this to go to March. I was going to say a month, 2 weeks, but I defer to Councilman Citro. He started this, so I give him great deference in terms of how he wants to do that. And also, I was talking to some environmental activists a few days ago with regard to administration, and I asked, you know, what's your opinion with regards to how the administration is doing on environmental stewardship issues? And the response that I got just from these folks, I'm not going to say that's binding on everybody, is that it's been good. So I think that a player at the table for this, to the extent that it has not been included before, because I can't speak to what our friend and colleague Councilman Citro did, is to work with Mr. Reamer, because our ships should sail in the same direction to the extent that the administration is doing well in environmental stewardship issues, and from everything I've seen, they are. So I do think it's wise to put this forward a little bit. You know, a big question, you know, we always hear on councils, I've been getting calls. Well, guess what? I have been getting calls on this from people on both sides. And one of the big questions is, for example, you know, yeah, it's an aspiration, but what does this do in applicability? What kind of a policy change does this call for? What is a fossil fuel under this resolution? What does that have for a restaurant, for the airport, for the port, for somebody driving a 1996 Honda Civic? In other words, all implications of it should be brought out for full consideration as part of that dialogue. So again, this is something we're going to get a 7-0 vote on, but I think you've got to first have a collaborative process. But I want to stress to people who want this, who want a resolution that comes out strongly on the issue of fossil fuels, this will get, not to commit for everybody, but it's going to get, I bet some money, 7-0 vote on this whenever it comes forward. But you got to have that collaborative process first, in my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilman Carlson, and then back to Councilman Citro.
I forgot in my comments a few minutes ago to thank Phil and Brooke and the other organizations and the many, many people who have spoken out on this. Without you all, without your persistence, without your help in the community, without your mobilizing, without your thoughts today and on other days, we wouldn't be having these conversations in a more robust way. So please, everybody, keep up the effort. And thank you to my colleague, Mr. Citro, also for having the guts to put this forward and for getting probably more phone calls than any of us. But without all your leadership, we wouldn't be able to address issues like this. And I look forward to the 7-0 vote, too. Thank you.
Councilman Citro.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. One, very quickly, Mr. Compton, I don't look at this as a loss. I look at this as a major, major step forward. And come March, we will pop the champagne. Councilman Vieira, you are the political historian, and I will paraphrase when I make this plagiaristic statement. There was a very bright young president who came to the citizens and said, and I paraphrase again, by the end of this decade, we will land a man on the moon and return him home safely. Not because it's easy, because it's hard. And the steps that we're taking today to make Tampa a more resilient, cleaner, greener city. Sure, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be well worth it for our children and our children's children. Let's put Tampa to work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very
Was
much.
that Calvin Coolidge? Just kidding.
JFK, come on.
So, Councilman Citro, your motion is for March 4th, 2021?
No, I believe I said March.
8th.
What?
Nope.
Nope.
I have 4th, 11th, 18th,
March
and
18th.
20th. March 18th, okay.
That is Madam Clerk, that is a council meeting day, is that correct?
Yes, it is. It's a regular session.
And that's staff reports and unfinished business?
That's correct.
All right, we have a motion from Councilman Citro, second from Councilman Carlson. Any objection to the motion?
Objection.
Oh, well, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objection? Councilman Dingfelder?
Nay.
And Dingfelder, nay.
Motion carried with Dean Felder voting no.
All right, thank you
Mr.
very
Chair-
much.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
Point
sir.
of order.
Yeah.
The superintendent's office called us in reference to Mr. Anderson. Want to know if we can get that way clear. Is she still on the line now, Ms. Deputy Madam Clerk?
That was for item number 2, the commendation for Vivian Anderson.
correct.
Is she online?
Yeah, she just needs to turn on her video camera and unmute herself.
All right.
Can you see us? Let's see.
We
see something.
We see a
Yeah,
desk.
it's backwards. Why is it doing backwards? Hold on. May have to turn it around. Now you're not seeing any. Hold on. I don't know what happened with that. No. Can you send me the share my webcam again? Yeah, it's just doing back, so let me
It's
turn it
on,
around.
just
Let me
got to turn it
watch.
around. Okay. All right, now we
We
can.
got her. There we go.
can see
What?
what.
You do? Okay,
Almost
never mind, you
there.
got us.
Keep
Here we
going.
go.
There you are.
All right.
See us here?
Yep.
Sorry about that. I'm sorry about the time confusion on my part. So I have Vivian Anderson here, and she's a 4th grader. And she's very wise and has noticed things around the neighborhood and made a big difference in Tampa just recently this year. So we want to thank you for inviting her to come on for some more recognition. Today, we're presenting her with the Tampa City Council Commendation. It's presented to Vivian Anderson, Extraordinary Citizen. And I'm going to read what it says. It's really a great commendation for her. It is not often that we have the opportunity to recognize someone for going above and beyond what is expected. Vivian Anderson has proven herself to be an outstanding young citizen of Tampa, one who exemplifies superior honor and answers the call of duty for her citizenship. Vivian helped move the city forward with all inclusiveness on our signage. She observed that there were signs at a construction site indicating men working and women were also present working. Vivian did agree with the sign did not agree with it excluding women. Vivian had the fortitude to reach out to Mayor Jane Castor and request the men working sign be changed to workers present. On this day, the 5th day of November 2020, it is with great pleasure Tampa City Council presents this commendation to honor Vivian Anderson for her leadership and thoughtfulness. She truly is an extraordinary citizen. And that sign great. She's making a big difference already, and she's just in 4th grade, and she's noticing things and really making Tampa a better place.
Well, let me say this. This is Councilman Goods. It was just hurting me in my heart that I said we have to get her on, so I had my office call the superintendent's office to make sure we can make this happen for her and for our citizens, so she can know that we appreciate what she's doing out there, and she's being observed, keeping us on our toes as well. So I just want to say thank you for the work you're doing. You continue to be a good student over there at Roosevelt, and again, we thank you immensely. Any other council members?
Councilman
And
Dingfelder.
thank you for recognizing her.
Dingfelder and Vieira.
And anything?
Thank you so much.
Dingfelder.
Okay, Vivian, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, this is Councilman Dingfelder, I'm waving. Anyway, I just wanted to congratulate you. I just wanted to say that, you know, Roosevelt is Teddy Roosevelt and the Rough Riders, right? And great public servants come out of that school, including Congressman Sam Gibbons, who was our U.S. Congressman for, I don't know, 30, 40 years. He was very good friends with President Kennedy. And also, I happen to have attended Roosevelt Elementary as well. So I'm very proud of you. Congratulations.
Councilman Vieira.
Hey, how are you? What do you want to do when you grow up, or when you get older, I should say? Any ideas yet?
I want to be a soccer player.
Cool, good for you. That's great. Well, whatever you do, you're gonna do well at it. And as I'm sure you know, to get to that goal, you gotta work hard, do the right thing, and be thoughtful, like you did right now with this issue. And I thank Councilman Goods for bringing you here, in effect, through virtual capacity. But just keep up the good work. You're in the fourth. And how old are you?
I'm 10.
10, okay, so 10 years old, you get a commendation from City Council. That's very impressive, my dear. So just well done, and I'm sure that your family are very proud of you. So just well done.
Councilman Carlson.
Hi, Vivian. Good to see you again. Thanks again for doing this and for your leadership. You're a role model, not just for your fellow students, but for all of us. And please keep up the good work. As I said earlier, you weren't on the call, but I look forward to seeing how your career progresses, and if we can help in any way, we will. Also, I should give a shout out to the mayor. This, as I understand it, was an issue with subcontractors, and I think it's a good example that the city is listening to citizens, and they actually changed the policy to make sure that subcontractors don't use the other sign, and they use the sign that Vivian wanted. So congratulations and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, folks.
Thank you. Thank you for having us and for the recognition. Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Item number 3. Item number 3. Which is the first reading on the anti-discrimination and implicit bias. Go ahead, Ms. Selman. Councilman Dingfelder.
Thank you. I reached out to Ms. Zellman yesterday in regard to this excellent ordinance, and I commend the various councilmen who were involved in the Charter Review Commission that got us to where we are on this one today. The only suggestion I had was, and we don't have the entire language on our agenda, but as part of this ordinance, it says that the staff will make a report to the mayor and council annually on how we are doing in terms of our bias training. They're going to try and come up with some way to measure it, and they're going to report annually. The only addition I'd like to make between first and second reading, if that's appropriate with Ms. Zellman and Mr. Shelby, is to specify that they would put this on our agenda for a verbal report annually. Just because I think it's something that's extremely important to the community, and the issue should be raised on our council agenda annually. So unless there's any objections, that would be my motion to slightly amend the ordinance between first and second.
Yes, and again, Andrea Zellman, Deputy City Attorney. Sorry, a little rusty. Yes, Mr. Dingfelder, we can amend the ordinance. I believe you want it to say both a written and verbal report annually. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I'll listen to council's comments. I don't want to belabor this, but, if you've, I just want it to be on the agenda. I don't want it to be something that's mailed to council, because then it will never see the light of day to the community. So I'm okay if it's just gets on our agenda, and then if some future council member wants to pull it as a verbal item, then that's fine.
Councilman Carlson?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Ms. Zellman and the legal team for spending months really working on this. And Ms. Zellman was on the Charter Review Commission with us too. So thanks to everybody on there. Also, thank you to the community, Angel D'Angelo, Restorative Justice, and other groups were very involved in this, and Ms. Zellman personally had multiple conversations with them. The clause that Mr. Dingfelder mentioned was an idea, as I understand it, that Ms. Zellman came up with because the community wasn't exactly happy with the solution, and so the solution Ms. Zellman came up with was, well, let's revisit it in a year, because also the needs for bias change. The definition of bias changes every year as the community and society change, and so it's a good way for us to stay in touch with the changing needs of society and adapt it, and also for the community to have give feedback on it. So thank you all.
Councilman Goods, then Councilman Vieira.
Well, again, excellent work, Ms. Zellman. I only have one question. When you look at Chapter 12, Human Rights, is the Human Rights Division a part of this process?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The
chapter says human rights.
Right, it's
I'm
within
wondering,
that part of the code.
Right, so I'm just wondering, is our Human Rights Division a part of this in any kind of form or fashion?
I'm not sure they would be. The ordinance really talks to the training, and of course the training for city employees is conducted by our Office of Human Resources and Talent Development. As you know, TPD has their own training, TFR has their own training. The ordinance does spell out the manner and way in which the training is conducted and the frequency and things like that. But other than that, there really wouldn't be any need for the Office of Human Rights to be involved.
Thank you.
Councilman Vieira.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Another person I always give him whenever I talk about this a shout out is another gentleman who served in the Charter Review Commission. He's a good friend of mine and a colleague, Michael Stevens. Now he's with the Tampa International Airport as counsel. Maybe at the time he was with Hart and had his own firm. But Michael came to my office maybe 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago or so, on having an updated or an implicit bias ordinance, and pushed this on the Charter Review. And he had worked with this with various other, really mostly attorneys. Fentress Driscoll, before she became a state representative, Teresa Pierre Coy, among other individuals. So I just wanted to give my friend, and I think a friend to many of us, Michael Stevens, a shout out in that regard. I think another really important part of this ordinance that I salute, that I think is so critical, is that the training is going to be done by an outside entity. That was certainly something that I push for a great deal and support. I don't think it's proper to have the training done by an internal individual within the city of Tampa. We have to look towards academia. We have to look towards community activists who are going to be working with the city and whatnot, members of clergy, et cetera, who are going to be working with staff, whether it's firefighters, first responders, police officers, sanitation workers, or whether it's us, whoever it may be. And then with regards to Councilman Dingfelder's amendment towards an annual report, I'd pushed, when this came like a month ago, for that, as Councilman Carlson said, because ideas of what is proper and what's improper in society change, and we tend to, one would hope, gravitate towards more tolerance and whatnot. And like I always tell people, when LBJ was signing the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and if you asked him about sexual orientation, he'd go, "What are you talking about?" So in other words, things change. Now, and also taken together, I think this ordinance on implicit bias training for city staff. I think taking together in over what we've done in just the last 6 months as city council and what we are completing, I think points to a record that we should all be proud of. We're passing an implicit bias ordinance for all City of Tampa workers done by an outside entity. That's something that's really big. We pushed for and we supported body cameras for police officers. We're going to make some significant changes with regards to the Civilian Review Board. You take a look at some of the policies changing with regards to TPD on issues such as a ban on chokeholds, a duty to intervene, a duty to warn, things like that. You know, put together, this, I think, is part of an agenda over the last 6 months that promotes civil rights and that makes real changes. Councilman Dingfelder, his work in leadership with regards to mental health and prospectively appropriating funds so that law enforcement officers in certain situations that implicate mental health can have a mental health professional with them. Again, this is a really innovative agenda and a record that I think we should all be very proud of. So just my opinion. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much.
And if I may, I'm sorry to interrupt Andrea Zellman again. I just want to add on to my response to Councilman Goods. Again, this ordinance specifically talks to training, but it doesn't take away from the fact that the Human Rights Ordinance in Chapter 12 already provides the ability of someone to file a claim if they thought they were being discriminated against on the basis of any of these categories that are spelled out in the ordinance with regard to the training. So I just want to make
you defined
clear
it. Thank you.
that that's there. Thank you.
Anybody else? Councilman Dingfelder, you were making a motion, or?
Yeah, I think I'll tweak up my own motion now that I wrestle with it in my head. Ms. Zellman, if we could just add a couple of words that would just say that the annual report would come back to council on our agenda. And I think that's adequate.
Okay, and we can do that between first and second reading. We'll make that change.
Thank you. That'd be my motion.
We have a motion from Councilman Dingfelder. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Now
The
we
next-
have,
Gentlemen, thank you, Randy.
first reading.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we have to do a roll call for first reading.
Oh, let's do a roll call. We have a motion
No,
from
actually, no,
Dingfelder.
I don't believe it was read by title only, was it?
No, it wasn't.
No.
It needs to be read, please.
I'll read it by title.
Go ahead, sir.
In regard to file 2020-8, Chapter 12, an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 12, Human Rights, in order to establish the interval and manner of city training related to harassment, anti-discrimination, implicit bias, and cultural competency, amending Section 12-4, creating a new Section 12-6, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Motion from Councilman Dingfelder, second from Councilmember Miranda. Roll call vote.
Vieira. Aye. Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd, 2020 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you very much. Next is item number 4.
Good morning, City Council. This is Deputy City Attorney Morris Massey in connection with item number 4. And this is a proposed economic development ad valorem tax exemption ordinance, which is authorized by both Florida statute and the Florida Constitution. It's intended to be an incentive for new businesses or expanding businesses that create new full-time jobs in the City of Tampa. A little background, the exemption only applies to improvements made to real property and tangible personal property added by a new or expanding business. It does not apply to the value of land. The statute requires that before this type of exemption can be granted, it must first be approved by a referendum of the voters of the local government. And on March 1st, 2011, the voters of the City of Tampa approved this program by such a referendum. The City of Tampa City Council then adopted an ordinance in 2011 that established the program requirements for granting this type of exemption. In this case, the applicant is Celadon Development Corporation, LLC. The applicant is proposing to build a paperboard or cardboard recycling facility on land that it will be leasing from the Tampa Port Authority on Gatex Drive on Hookers Point. Celadon has represented that when completed, it will employ at least 96 persons full-time at an annual average wage of at least $55,675, and it will make a minimum capital investment of over $160 million in improvements in tangible personal property at this location. The construction would start in 2021, this upcoming year, but the exemption would not go into effect until January 1, 2025, to ensure that the capital investment and employment representations made by Celadon have been achieved. The exemption would equal 50% of the assessed value of the improvements in tangible personal property made by Celadon to the site. The exemption would be in effect for 7 years. As requested by City Council, Celadon is required by this ordinance to file annual reports to ensure that Celadon is maintaining compliance with its employment and capital investment requirements. The city will provide those annual reports to City Council. If Celadon fails to comply with these requirements, then the exemption can be revoked. This exemption applies only to the city ad valorem taxes. The county has, the BOCC has approved a virtually identical ordinance to apply to the county ad valorem taxes for the same project. And this is first reading. I'm here for any questions that you might have.
And if you could state your name for the record when you came on camera.
I'm sorry, Morris Massey, Deputy City Attorney.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, Councilman Dingfelder?
Thank you, Mr. Massey. You might have mentioned this. I'm having a little trouble
Sure.
hearing the remotes, but revocation. This is the program is, I think, is for 7 years.
Yes, sir.
They're getting 50% relief off their improvements that they make, which is significant improvements in the tens of millions of dollars, as I understand it. But how about, let's say they went out of business, they broke their lease with the port, they moved out, and they had 0 employees or far fewer employees than what they're projecting. So after a year or two, we find this out. What's the opportunity for revocation of this tax relief?
The ordinance expressly states that the exemption can be revoked, and we can seek repayment of the taxes for which they've been exempted for the term that they've not been in compliance.
Does revocation require an amendment to the ordinance, or is it a staff function?
We would have to take action. The only automatic revocation would occur if they don't meet their capital investment goals or the statements that they made, which is $160 million plus, and they don't meet the employment requirements by January 1, 2025, and then that would result in an automatic revocation if they do not proceed with the investment on the site.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Carlson.
Yes, Mr. Massey, you and Rob know that we asked you all to come back and report to us on the possibility of creating an ordinance to require a sworn affidavit annually, and you addressed that in your conversation there. How do we verify that they're telling the truth about the number of employees and the capital investment?
Well, they will be filing forms that are mandated by both the state statute and and those statements will be reviewed by both the county and the city, since we're both granting the exemption. We are requiring that they file an affidavit with the statement so that they are swearing and affirming under oath that the statements made in those affidavits are true and correct. But the county and the city will both be monitoring to ensure that they comply with the requirements.
Great, thank you very much. And I'll skip. Is Rob going to speak too, or are we going to? Should I go ahead and make my step?
This is Rob. He's available.
Okay, I'll speak up. Let me just say this so I don't have to take the mic again. I'm in general against almost all incentives. I think that communities should sell themselves based on their attributes and the quality of life, not on low taxes, incentives, and low wages and low real estate prices, which is how economic development has been done here for many, many years. However, this one is vitally important to the container industry, which is something I've been promoting for more than 20 years. And the problem and maybe Rob was going to address this, but the problem is that we finally have gotten container service. We're woefully behind other cities and other ports in container traffic because previous port administrations had not addressed the issue adequately. This administration has, and they, before COVID, had brought 3 services to Tampa, which is drastically increasing the number of containers. The problem is that the containers have to go back empty. And so this gives us something to put on the containers to help grow the container traffic. And so because of that, I think it is a good idea. But my other concern about incentives is that they unfairly benefit one company in an industry versus others. And we've all felt that where our competitors got subsidies, and the development community and others have told us that it's just not fair. So I asked Mr. Rosner to speak to the Port of Tampa Maritime Industry Trade Association, and I spoke to them afterwards, and they said they have no objection. They're in support of this. And so keeping in mind that we have validation of the data, a close watch over the data with the city and the county, that it will support an important strategic industry and support important asset, the port and the container industry, and that the competitors and other tenants of the port don't object to it, I would be in favor. Thank you.
Mr. Rosner?
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Carlson. I'm happy to speak about this. Rob Rosner, Director of Government Opportunity. We've been working with the county on this process, and the general gist of this is that we're bringing this company here and using one of the sites at the port. This process will require about 2 million gallons per day, which makes them a good customer for the city to sell them water for their process. We're also able to remove a lot of recycled waste here and send it back to China. Is going to be one of their main places that they ship to. So the port's very much in favor of this. This fits with their goal of activating a 40-acre site on their property and having a long-term lease with them. We're getting manufacturing jobs here. Again, they committed to the first 96 jobs, and as Morris had said, if they even only do 95 jobs, the incentive goes away. So, if they don't meet the requirements, they don't get the incentive. So, to answer your question earlier about how do we keep track of that, they have to submit all their documents to us, proving that they've hired these employees, showing pay slips, the whole bit. So we know that they're actually paying these employees that much. We don't just take their word for it. We don't walk in the building and count employees or anything. But we have to look through all the records, just like a business would if they're trying to show, their business tax and that kind of thing. So we do have that process for doing that. Did I answer your question, or did you have other things that you wanted me to cover on that? Mr. Carlson.
Oh, no, I'm fine. Thank you.
Councilman Goods.
Well, I think both Councilman Dingfelder and Carlson kind of echo what I'd asked Mr. Rosner during our telephone conversation of making sure that people are saying and doing what they're asking us to do. And I just want to make sure that, again, there is a check and balances to make sure if we're going to do these favors that people are honoring what we're doing, and there's a process in place to where they're not, that we can be recouping what we gave. So Mr. Morris has already told us that, and you've told us that as well. So I'm comfortable knowing that, hoping that we're watching the House and watching the taxpayers' dollars.
Okay, so just to clarify, and I know you guys said get something back that we gave. Actually, it's the 10-year agreement with the first 3 years. They had the first 3 years to build the plant and hire the people in there. And on the 4th year, at the end of the 3rd year, they have to prove to us that they've hired the positions, built the facility, and spent the $160 million that they've committed to. Then they start getting it the following years, so through years 4 through 10. Those are the 7 years that Morris was responding to. So they wouldn't get it unless they even met those requirements. So if they said, oh, we only hired 50 employees, or we hired the 96 employees, but they're all at $45,000 a year, we'd say, sorry, no deal. And they would forfeit their incentive. So that is why this is only based on performance. They have to do what they had promised to do. Their original was $300 million for 2 lines and had 200 people. But because this has a 3-year window on it, They believe they can only get one of their 2 lines built in that time, so they reduced it to the $160 million capital expenditure and 96 jobs, because that's what they believe they could get done in that 3-year window. So that's just as a reassurance of we don't give anything unless they've met that performance. Then on the 4th year and beyond, they start getting that 50% rebate from us.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Would anybody like to go ahead and read the ordinance for item number 4?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
This is not supposed to happen.
Councilman Miranda, would you like to read item number 4?
I'll read it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Item number 4, found number E 2020-8, Chapter 27, an order being presented for first reading consideration. An ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, granting an exemption from certain ad valorem taxation for Caledon Development Corporation, LLC, a new business to be located in the City of Tampa, providing for a short title, providing for definitions of terms, providing for the finding that all the requirements applicable to the granting of such exemption have been met, providing for the amount of revenues available from ad valorem tax sources for the current fiscal year, providing for the amount of revenues lost by virtue of the economic development of ad valorem tax exemption currently in effect, providing for the estimated revenue loss attributed to the exemptions granted by Caledon Corporation, LLC, providing the period of time for which the exemption will remain in effect and the expiration date of such exemption, providing requirements associated with the granting and continuation of such exemption, providing for applicability, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinance in conflict and effective date.
Second.
We have a second from Councilman Citro. Roll call vote.
Vieira.
Yes.
Goods.
Yes.
Dingfelder.
Yes.
Maniscalco.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Citro.
Yes.
Miranda.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously. Second reading and adoption will be held on December 3rd, 2020 at 9:30 a.m.
Councilman Carlson?
Just one other quick thing. Thanks and congrats to Paul Anderson and his team at Port Tampa. They've worked really hard over the last few years to turn our port around. Our port was way behind other ports in Florida and the country and internationally, and this is a great example of the kinds of projects, at least what I know about it, that we should be working on. So thanks to them.
Thank you very much. Items 5, 6, and 7, we are going to push to item 87 as already discussed. It'll be discussed then. Let's go through our consent agenda here, and after that, we will break for lunch.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I've got a doctor's appointment this afternoon. I'm fine, but just a checkup. So I'm not gonna be able to be here for some of these items, including item 7. So, Mr. Chairman, if you would indulge me for about 1 minute
Okay,
on
go
item
ahead.
7.
Go ahead.
I'm not thrilled with this item. I know it came up the last time we had Super Bowl. This is an item, an ordinance creating the event zone, clean zone around the stadium and around downtown for the week of Super Bowl, or a little bit more than a week. And the same item came up last time I was on council when Super Bowl was here the first time, or the other time. And I can't remember how I voted for it. I wasn't happy about it then. I think it's overkill. The Super Bowl committee, the out-of-town folks who run the Super Bowl, the NFL, and they come in and they just basically want to take over a 20-block area and tell people what they can do and what they can't do, including private property and their own homes. And the same thing on this one includes also a portion of downtown for 10 days, telling people what kind of signage they can have up or not have up and that sort of thing. And I just think, I know we want the Super Bowl, I know we love the Super Bowl and that sort of thing, but I just think it's overkill. And they say it's in the name of public safety, but you know what? We have football games here every other week. We have 50 to 60,000 people here every other week in the fall for football games, and we don't freak out and we don't infringe on people's rights and commercial speech or non-commercial speech, whatever. We just don't do that. So anyway, if I was here this afternoon, I would either move to continue item 7 to address some of those, I would say, overly aggressive restrictions, or I'd vote against it. So I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Public Safety Committee is Councilmember Citro, items 8 through 14.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move items number 8 through 14.
Second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Parks, Rec, and Cultural Committee is Councilmember Goods, items 15 through 18.
Mr. Chair, I move items 15 through 18.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Councilman Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up is Councilmember Dingfelder with the Public Works Committee, items 19 through 27.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move those items 19 through 27.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilman Dingfelder, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? All right, hearing none. Finance Committee is Councilmember Miranda. Remember, item 34 has
yes,
been
sir.
pulled for the end of the
Yes, sir. I
agenda.
move items 28 through 36, holding 34.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Miranda, second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Building, Zoning, and Preservation Committee is Councilmember Carlson with items 37 through 55.
Yes, sir, I'd like to move items number 37 through 55.
Second.
We have a motion from Councilmember Carlson, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Hearing none. We are at Councilmember Vieira with the Transportation Committee, 56 through 58.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move items 56 through 58.
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Councilmember Vieira, second from Councilmember Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, we have some review hearings to be scheduled, and then we'll stop there and break for lunch. Item number 59 is to be set for November 19th, 2020 at 9 a.m. Do we have a motion for this resolution?
So moved.
Move.
We have a
Second.
motion from Councilman Good, second from Councilman Miranda. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. With regards to item numbers 60 through 63, those are 4 review hearings. Presently, the alcohol beverage night that's available is January 28th at 6 p.m. There is currently 1 review hearing already scheduled. This would make a total of 5 review hearings, plus whatever alcoholic beverage sales, or excuse me, special uses are on the agenda for that night. The alternative is to split it between January and February, but 2 of these are for the zoning administrator, which usually doesn't take long. 62 is an ARC review, and the 63 is a VRB review. If you want to hear all of them the same evening, you could make them January 21st. If you want to split them between the 2, you could split 2 for January and 2 for February, but I think you'd be able to do them all in January, but I won't know till we do it.
Okay, any objection, any comments, any suggestion? Or would someone like to make a motion for January 21st for
Chairman, I
items?
move items 60 through 63 for January 21st, 2021 at 6 p.m.
January 21st is set aside
All right,
for
we have
the
a motion from
land use
Councilmember Miranda,
application.
second from Councilmember Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposition? Hearing none, it is 11:49. We will now stand in recess for lunch until 1 p.m. 1 p.m. We are in recess. Thank you very much.